the Ghost Ship themselves posted the teaser. So
Ghost Ship himself.
yeah, the mighty Ghost Ship posted the teaser. So
I guess that's technically the Deep Rock news to start with, because there's always there's somehow always something, even when it's the most minute thing possible. But I did want to talk about that actually, because honestly, I don't think they've done that before. Actually, they have. I remember the weapons being posted, the weapon teasers being posted on their YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But it feels like it's been missing. It feels like it's something they haven't done before. I guess that's because the first teasers haven't always been videos, though.
Yeah.
So they got that on their side. It's an actual teaser. Like, as in people see it and be like, oh, Season 4 teaser, and it's on YouTube. That's the best place for it to be, frankly. It's already got, well, I don't know, quite a lot of views.
It took them a while to post it, though. Bit weird.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, that. It's like, as far as I know, the guy who would do that isn't doing anything else. Oh yeah, they are live right now, actually. Okay, good. Good.
He's run a bit of a timer. Time is long, 1.5 hours about.
Should be enough time. Unless we just talk about not that there's any general gaming news I picked up on. I don't think. No, if there was, they would say. You know, right now.
Minecraft Legends.
Minecraft Legends launched. Great. Yeah.
My Battle Vision take, and by Battle Vision I mean just my take. The story mode is fucking boring as hell. Models you so hard you can't do anything, and essentially like the sandbox freedom of Minecraft completely gone.
Well, that's fair, right? That's fair. It's a Minecraft spin-off. You think ideally you would retain some of the game's original identity, but it's like, well, what is the identity? Is it the visuals or is it the gameplay? It's both, isn't it?
It's essentially it's in Minecraft's world, but it doesn't even keep up with the canon. Right, so basically, it's a summoning. It's essentially Clash of Clans, and I'm not shitting you. You build your base, build walls, archer towers, shit you not, build stuff like that, and then you summon like troops, and then you basically attack piglin bases, right? And that's kind of the gameplay loop. And I mean that in the very little I've experienced, you do that shit over and over again, and sometimes the villages you defend will get attacked by piglins, and you have to defend them, shit like that. But I didn't play much of the story because it didn't seem that interesting. But like Clash of Clans, there is a player versus player mode, and that is kind of fun. It's essentially Bed Wars. Harry, I think we played that a little bit, right? You got a bit of a defend or attack kind of thing. It's actually kind of fun, to be honest. Not that rewarding in that you aren't rewarded at all, even though there's currency and store coin, the Minecraft currency that they've got running on all of their games, I guess. But all in all, the PvP mode is kind of fun. Yeah, everything else is not that. That's my review. Luckily, I got it for free. It's Game Pass. So, yeah.
It almost strikes me as Minecraft is becoming a lot like Pokemon in the way that they're sort of branching out. Pokemon does all of a lot of bullshit spin-off games that don't mean anything, and are just really like Pokemon Sleep. Or
what? I've never heard of any of this.
Yeah, there's a lot of these really pointless spin-off games, and Minecraft has strikes me as one of those IPs where now, because who developed Minecraft Legends?
Not Mojang. No, well, not heavily Mojang. Another company appeared in like the loading up, which I would imagine would have been the main one.
I guarantee you that company hasn't done anything other than this, or they don't have any they don't have any main games, original games to their name. They probably do this kind of thing, and it's always like just really kind of. I guess I haven't played it, but I would say half-baked sort of pointless games. Really, they're just based on the name. They're just making games to feed the name of Minecraft rather than actually trying to make a proper game.
Well, yeah. No, it really does all feel like money grabs. both this and the other one, which is slightly weird considering they're both free on Game Pass and most people have Game Pass. But all of them, including this one, already has a store, but also will get constant DLC and arguably has fuck all content without the DLC.
Yeah, guys,
And I think
this is why
that's
Game
what they
Pass
do.
isn't like the best thing in the world, because it does mean that there's like it's one of the biggest ways that these sort of excuse games launching unfinished, or not launching unfinished, but launching with very little content because it's free, right? That's immediately justification that people use to defend them. And then they'll just charge for content, and they'll have a lot of microtransactions as well as just charging for main content.
It makes sense, right? Like if you have a game, if you put it out there for free, a lot more people will play it, right? Or essentially free, especially if you're a big title named Minecraft. Tons of people are going to play that game, right? Just because of the word there.
Yeah, Minecraft is making infinitely more money by being free and having a ridiculous store rather than being a paid game.
Yeah,
a ridiculous amount of money. Well, yeah, I guess.
Everyone just has it and has had it for so long they forget they even paid for it. Like,
I'm surprised it's not free actually, but Fortnite, I guess, is a better example because it's always been free, and it's made infinitely more money by being free than by not being free, because so many more people get it initially.
Very specific evidence of that in that Fortnite had a paid game mode, right? Save the World. You would pay that, and then you would play that. But because you had to pay for it, fuck all people ever played it. I think it got shut down, or it's some weird. It's like a very fractional piece of content in the game now that they don't really give a shit about, because why should they? They don't get much money from it. You get more money by giving out stuff for free and then adding stuff for money later on than just actually costing money.
Yeah.
Especially since if you ask for money in the first place, you can't really then ask for more without getting a lot of shit, right? Like big games that then ask for more money with big DLCs is like, okay, you're taking a bit of the piss here. Like Fallout and shit like that. Fallout 4 predominantly. They didn't do any DLC for did they? Like 3 in New Vegas.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of Fallout 3 DLC. Yeah. But that game's already quite big on its own, right? And the DLCs are all like £5. They add stuff. I don't know. I think it's fairly well justified. It's like a full game already, which is the important part. But you don't find you just don't see that anymore. you just don't get that. You just don't. That doesn't happen. But I guess I sort of, because of all this, I sort of don't really have it in me to be too harsh and go ship anymore. given like there's still indie developers and they really don't try to make money at all in that way.
Once again, this is
it's got a standard like middle of the road price tag, and the only microtransactions are cosmetic DLCs. That's it, and they still push out big free content updates as often as they can. So
yeah. Because if we were to mention, because it actually let's go with Minecraft, the one before Legends Dungeons. That game probably had about as much content as Deep Rock did when it came out, like a couple years ago. That game, free on Game Pass, costs money elsewhere. Probably about the same as a Deep Rock. Yet each DLC you had to pay like a wad. Like I think it was like 7 or 12 for like, I shit you not, about 10 minutes of content. That game was empty. Like you could breeze through it. And literally, and they had and that was it. And in the end, they had more content in DLC than the base game. You could load up the base game and you could see all the DLC islands just there, and it was a bigger map than the actual default one. And you compare a game like that to Deep Rock, who just consistently gives free DLC essentially, right? Like seasons do kind of feel like DLC at this point, right? Like it's like the Gen 3 weapon DLC. Like they could have easily have packaged it like that, right? Or some shit like that, like the Rivals DLC.
I'd say
Yeah,
the easiest stuff to package like that would be like biomes and missions. I'd say weapons, maybe not. That would be a lot harder to do. Although I don't know. I don't really know what people sort of expect from
it is
paid
such
content.
a foreign idea as to like, oh, how would ghost ship monetize? Right? It's like it's just
It's like a foreign idea to this game. Like we just
I
can't
genuinely don't
conceptualize
think
what they would
even
do.
considered it for a moment.
No.
Like not even for an instant where they're like, this like Rivals that we're getting up. Maybe we should make them like pay for it to add it to their game, right? Like it's like that kind of thing. Like that. No one said that. I would imagine, right? Because I think all of them understand that that is dumb and stupid, and that would actually be up there in killing the game, right?
Yeah.
Because it will take a betrayal like that, and that feels weird a little bit. Like at this point, the community and us have come to expect free content, and if we don't get free content, we will riot, right? And that feels slightly I don't know, egotistical or like snobbish shit like that. Um, Yet it's still kind of. I think they understand it as well, though, right? They just understand that people should expect free DLC, and if they want to give us like they bought our game essentially,
I
right?
mean, as far
Like,
as you can tell, that is the expectation they wanted to set because their focus, their business like approach is loyalty, not
yeah,
milking their customers at all.
yeah,
In fact, because there's actually no way to, right? There's no for example, any game that has a virtual currency to be bought and therefore probably has a store, you could buy that currency over and over again. Obviously, you can buy the DLCs over and over again to gift them to people, sure, but there's only like it's still like a cap on how much money you can spend. Even if it's a lot now, it's not. There's no like actual money sinkhole. There's no infinite like whirlpool that will drag your your wallet down as you just keep buying more currency to spend in the store. There's a limited number of DLCs, and there always will be, even if they keep adding more.
I wonder if anyone's done the math about how much it would cost to buy all things in the store in Fortnite. How much money that would cost? Because I would expect at this point in time we're talking like 100,000.
That's what I was going to say. Probably I mean, yeah, probably.
Is an unquantifiable amount of skins that are cycled through.
So much shit in Fortnite. Well, surely there's more like other stuff overall though. Surely, like other sprays and like gliders and all the weird little shit.
Be, thrown into the bundle with
the
skins. Like there'd be like I don't know, a Rick skin with a Pickle Rick backpack, and that would kind of come together. I think both of those things are true, but I mean, obviously the Rick thing, but I think that actually was a bundle they did.
Pickle? Oh no,
but,
no.
But, yeah, and yeah. So that I mean, the amount of money they got just constantly, just free. It's just free money essentially. For Epic Games.
The Clifford thief. It steals money from you.
Yeah, it's just basically like like we would like money, but we would just like to earn it, right? like they don't want to take it; they just want you to give it to them.
Yeah, I'm writing this down. Thief enemy steals from your inventory.
The fucking what's his name? The little rat guy and
Cat purse.
Yeah, cat purse.
Cut.
Oh,
You always called him cat purse. It pissed me the fuck off.
Boner.
Boner.
Yeah. What are we actually here for today? Is there anything specific? What's the title? Is there a title?
Well, obviously I called it season 4 predictions because
yeah,
you gotta get those. We gotta get those clicks. But this is something. We've done something like this before. And obviously, this is something that you can only do on you can't do this often. Really, it's actually up to Ghost Ship how often did we do this. And so far, there hasn't been very many, because this is the second one. And it's already different. So the first one of this, a bingo style, just prediction / brainstorming session would be the best way to put it. Not a very brief explanation, but still. We did this for grenades for season 3, but what I did then was that was kind of weird, because I just wrote down prior to recording like 20 different grenades, and then we literally just went through them and talked about who they'd be the most best for, or which ones are most likely to get in. I figured though, it'd be a much better idea if we do this again, that the actual creation of said list would be done on the spot, and in fact that would be most of it. We don't even necessarily need to go into how likely something is going to be the only really qualifier we can discuss this time. It's not like which class is it going to, it's not going to be any of that this time. But
I think the Steve Clifford is going to go on the engineer. I think that suits him.
Or the scout. I think the scout, really.
Yeah, I did think scout when I said it jokingly.
Not that the engineer isn't a thief. Because he is.
I don't think any of them would be against Stevie other than maybe Gunner.
Yeah, I was about to say Gunner.
But just mentally, Gunner is just the one that just has rules and it dedicate. He's the one that actually cares about the company. I think. He's like, it really does reinforce the rules down in the caves. But yeah, continue.
The Lawbringer. Continue. What do you? I don't know how to continue. Well, I guess so. This is a season 4 enemy bingo. That's what we're doing today. And
we're gonna actually fill in a bingo sheet.
No, I can't be bothered to do that. I've just got a notepad open. A notepad document.
Can it not make a chart?
A chart?
5x5 chart.
Why would we do that?
Well, because that's a bingo.
I don't want to actually play bingo.
We could. It's a formatting. Plus, we then have a maximum or minimum amount we need to posit. Which would be 24. Because
you want
in the middle is going to be 3.
So you want to actually do bingo?
I'm saying we can do with relative ease. If you could just make a 5x5 graph.
Sure. Oh, I'm just looking.
They're not like a graph.
Is that what they are? Okay, yeah, 5x5. You're right. Well, I'm not. I don't have any Microsoft Office app open, Tyler.
Right.
I just accidentally opened McAfee again. Just fuck's sake.
I have no idea what McAfee is.
McAfee. McAfee. All right, I'll open this. Actually, I should probably open that that weird thing.
We're not using Excel.
Not Excel. I'm still using PowerPoint. I mean, I'm just. Where is it?
Wasn't someone using that? Was it you that was learning Excel?
No. Is it the viability project? The tables, PowerPoint. Why is it downloading? What's it doing? What's going on here? I'm sorry, everyone. This is very, very odd. Okay, so, and I'll just take one of these slides.
Make your own bingo sheet at home while you're here. Basically, just make a 5x5. The middle one, the one in the middle, is just free.
This doesn't make any sense. This isn't the right way to do this at all, actually. I'm just going to make a bingo. I'm just going to make a blank PowerPoint. Insert table 5x5.
Yeah, and
there it is.
Roy. And then if you want to use our ideas, you be our guests, come up with some of your own, and then put them on the bingo sheet. And then when we get more season news, start filling in the bingo sheet. We'll maybe do ours as well.
That's a good. That's what. Okay, now I'm on board with this.
Actually gets bingo.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that means we've obviously we've got 25 things to fill in, I guess, which is actually not far off.
In the middle, just do 3, Clifford. Just say the word Clifford. It's incredibly free.
Oh my god!
Let's be realistic. We're not going to be able to get 5 in a row unless something like that is in the case, right? That makes it exponentially easier to get bingo.
Yep.
As in reasonably possible, essentially.
Yep. What is our font?
I would not know. I've not used it.
It's Franklin Gothic Heavy.
Wow.
Oh, anyway, Clifford. There's a Clifford. Look at that. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll maybe show it at the end. I'm not sure if you could do that, but for now, talk time. All right. Have you got anything going into this that you've constructed that you'd want to get out of there now, so you don't forget?
Well, I don't know how broad we want to go, right? Or how specific. Because if you, for example, if we had literally no restraints, because this is actually why the bingo sheet is a good idea. Because otherwise, we could literally just throw the most broad concepts out there and also the most specific concepts. So I was going to suggest a Mactera that steals your shields, but then it's like, okay, maybe you should just write a shield stealing enemy. You know, I mean that's more appropriate.
Like gunner shield or like the shield that you.
Your shields, yeah, it'll take your shields.
Right. So it's like a plasma halo weapon enemy.
Well, I had the idea of a sapper. He's a sapper, right? And that means it would take your shields for itself. It would steal your shields. It would absorb your shields, and that's
It would have an interesting interaction with no shield. Right?
Shield disruption. Well, I like the idea that it's actually a purely I guess there's two versions of it you could conceptualize, right? One where it just takes it for itself, another where it does it to share the shields around or something. And therefore, it doesn't need to do damage to your... I had the idea where it wouldn't actually damage your health. It literally just takes your shields. But if it's not a support enemy, then it should be able to damage your health as well. But it doesn't steal your health. It just steals your shields. In that sense, though, we should probably also write down vampire.
Yeah.
Maybe you can have both. A sapper and a vampire. It's the two words I would use. A life stealer and a shield stealer.
Under, like shield health.
In that same vein, now we've got those two, that duo. I'm also going to write down duo.
Yeah, I know that was an idea you've been kicking around for a while.
Yeah.
Like, I still don't exactly... I know, I can understand... Like, obviously, twins is an example of essentially what you'd be looking for. But I really don't know how you go about doing that on, like, a normal enemy pool. I just can't wrap my head around it.
No, I can though. I guess it's more like you. No, like, I can't really.
Twin enemy types is a common trope, right? That's a very common thing. Lots of games do it, but as far as twin casual enemies, like that's not really a thing. I don't know. Plus, if you get 2 of those twins spawn, you would have quintuplets. So that would be interesting. And then I don't know what 8 ones.
That gives me an idea. A multiplying enemy.
Yeah.
Or yeah. Do you want to? What is that? I think maybe.
Well, I think
like a slime,
it would be like a worm where you cut it in half and it turns into 2 worms.
Worms, giant worms. I don't know if we want to write things like worms though, necessarily.
No.
I don't know if we want to predict things like that necessarily. Multiply, because I was gonna bring up slimes. It's just an idea, but
was it? It was Nathaniel's idea, right? Of an enemy that's like a mother or like a host of sorts. That when you kill it, like a bunch of little guys come out.
Well, I think we should. But maybe there isn't like a mobile like summoner enemy that isn't a boss. Actually, there is the breeder. Yeah.
There's not a ground version.
Well, that's just like type of enemy that you can throw in. There could be a new summoner. There could even be a new grabber type enemy. But that's like, which I'm also going to write down. Because it's easy.
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple. Ground grabber is the trawler. like air grabber is the nemesis. Sky like roof grabber is
or the grabber itself.
Uh,
Actual Mactera grabber.
Right, yeah, I forgot about him. But yeah. So it's so I guess and I think there's a room for like another ground-based one. Like,
There isn't a Clifford one. Yeah, Clifford. I don't know what you would do. He'd probably just grab you and then run away.
But then he just like grabs you. But I don't think they'd like that, since like Sasha's already kind of that, right? That once they get their hands on you, you struggle to get away, essentially.
The Clifford napper.
Yeah.
Dwarf napper.
Just knocks you on your ass.
Well, in that sense, it would be better as like a web. Well, it wraps you up in a web. Tyler, how do you feel about that?
I think it's interesting because grabbing as a mechanic is like both loved and hated, really, isn't it? Like, people love the cave leech. People love the Mactera grabber. Like it's like such a thing that keeps you on your feet, and they're like, oh fuck, like right, that kind of thing. But people fucking hate the nemesis and trawler, and the fact that they can do it, right? So far, it's a real 50-50 hit rate, and I'm not sure if Ghost Ship would want to add to that. Plus, if there's tons of enemies that can take the control away from you, that might get pretty awful. Like if they keep adding more, I'm not sure when the line should be drawn. But I don't know.
I'm gonna write web guy.
Yeah, I think yeah.
Possibly, if we're going to get new Glyphids, possibly a web spitter veteran or something that like spins the big webs.
Web dribbler.
Web spinner. Web layer. Web designer. Web. the glip hid web designer. The hip glyph. Hip glyphid. The Chad and Soy glyphid. We're gonna write down. We got to get a charger or a ram type enemy. It runs at you. It's like a charge attack, and it can run. What? I was gonna write ram.
Like we talk about how the Brundle should like boop into you essentially.
Mm-hmm.
The guard has essentially the same claim to that type of thing, right? Like, because I still think I think the guard doesn't need it, because I like its more slow, like blocking his face approach.
I like the guard. I think the counterpart guard would be interesting. That would do something like that.
Yeah, but a more, instead of blocking his face, he'd just like charge up and then just like just sprint towards you. I think that definitely. I think that's definitely like a charger. And it would knock you back like a. I guess Coronas are close. They're kind of close. They're not really charge. They're more just constantly doing it. But
I suppose it would be sort of difficult to justify with the existence of those guys, though, because it's like. So what does that mean? Is this Glyphid supposed to be like the common version of like the youngling, where it's like basically a youngling that you can encounter in every biome, or what is his purpose? I guess he doesn't roll, he just charges. Because I like the idea that it would, if it misses you, it would hit a wall and stun itself.
He'll get stun himself. Yeah, that's such a clear, like, if they do this, they have to do that.
Which is it's better for like a bigger veteran mini boss type enemy. Actually,
I think there is an interesting thing that they could use this enemy for, right? Because when sometimes they add enemies to like kind of counter the best play, right? Like, even though arguable how effectively it does it, oppressors countered bunkering, right? That was kind of why they're added. Can't do any damage to the front of them, destroys terrain so it creates its own holes, that kind of thing. Maybe currently backing up and just shooting is like the play, really, isn't it? Or
sometimes,
like kind of like
often,
like playing to that kind of thing. And I think this kind of enemy would fuck with that, right? Because he'd be like around the middle of the horde you're like backing away from and like killing slowly, and he'd just then like just sprint out of them and just hit you, stun
like
you.
You couldn't escape him by just running the other way. You couldn't turn around and run because he'll get you. He's faster than you. So I like the idea of it's sort of like a maybe
just like a wrench being
maybe.
thrown at you.
Well, I'm thinking like sort of level of enemy, maybe somewhere around Praetorian level in terms of maybe rarer than the Praetorian as well, though. Maybe not as common. Probably the same rarity as an oppressor.
I'm thinking like
I guess.
Sentinel, like size, like slightly, you know.
Yeah. Size-wise, definitely Sentinel. He needs to be able to move fast, but he also needs to be like a distinct, like sort of veteran presence amongst the horde. Which is why like oppressor's sort of rarity, not like as in you would see them at the same time. You probably wouldn't see them at the same time at all, actually, because of how like the RNG works. It might just decide to spawn lots of oppressors one mission, or just a lot of charges. I think it's the best word for them. But that could be misinterpreted, something to do with electricity, but still, I think it's fine.
Yeah, you could combine the two, really. Like, he gains charge from sapping your shield, and then when he uses that, he charges towards you. Like, you could throw the two together. But I think, you know, I think Praetorian makes a lot of sense for him, since I would imagine his weak point would be on his ass, right? I think you like you were ineffective looking at him from the front, but if he runs past you and you want to help,
well, I suppose it's actually,
I suppose he stuns, essentially game over.
I suppose it's an interesting way you could do the weak point for it as well, though, because like you could put it on the back, and therefore like dodging and letting him hit himself is actually the best way to deal with it, because then it's like against the wall, but his back is to you. So it's very easy to kill. But what if it was a real dickhead and the weak point was actually on the front? And therefore, if you actually let it get past you and it runs into a wall, it's actually hiding its weak point. Actually, so you have to kill it while it's running at you. So you have to...
That's a risky gamble.
It is. It's a gamble.
The thing I made the Let's CRG, like when you weren't here, the one that I was like my pilot. It wasn't obviously this idea, but it kind of was the Clifford Dasher. It's essentially just that, but for everyone. It just increases the speed of everyone, but its weak point wasn't the front of its head. And it was basically when he is speeding everyone else up, he is then slower, but his weak point at the front of his head is then explode. I do like weak point being on the front of their head. I do like that idea, which is why I brought it up, because I've already done something on that. I don't think it would work for that, especially since if he rams towards you and like he hits a wall and the weak point hits the wall, I feel like he should die or something like that, right? Like if his weak point is like a big bulbous red spot on the front of his head and he rams it straight into a wall, I think it should just pop and he insta dies or some shit. Like, as funny as I think that would be,
that would be better. That would be better for like a small version of it. That would always be a good exploder variant, where it's an exploder that sort of goes into like suicide bomber mode, where it gets ultra quick, but it's on a timer.
I think there is room.
So I'm going to write suicide bomber. So I'm going to write.
I think there is room for more enemies like that. And especially an enemy like, because currently what we have is enemies that don't want to kill themselves and enemies that do the whole time. So maybe there's an enemy that generally doesn't, right? They're just a normal fella, but when shit starts going bad for it, it's like, that's it, fuck that noise, and it just guns for you and tries killing himself.
But speaking of exploders, now obviously I don't want to get that. We don't want to be that specific. We don't want, because we got Clifford in the middle, right? But none of these guys have Clifford on their name, because what we know is that we're getting new enemies, like just general new enemies, but that doesn't actually mean not a new species, because it still could be. Yeah. So we're not putting Clifford on all of these, but these could all be Clifford, they could be Mactera, they could all be well, actually those are the two main ones, but could be now. But this, it's just that this idea is inspired by the idea of a mid-ground, like a midway between the exploder and the bolt detonator, which is like a mortar one, you know, where it would shoot like the balls from the detonator, and it would sort of be like, it would be an exploder looking guy, but it wouldn't be like an exploder. It would actually hang back. So a mortar, basically, is what I'm saying. A mortar.
Like the plant in the sandblasted corridors, right?
Yeah.
Where when you hit it, it launches up into the air and then like comes down and often hits you. I think it aims, right? It definitely fucking aims.
It seems random to me.
In its area. No.
Oh, for the other plants, maybe. Random. For the other plants, I think that it might be, because how often it dominoes, you know?
Yeah. There's definitely some aiming being done there, and that could easily just be copy pasted onto a mortar type enemy.
Well, a mortar type as well. It's the reason why a mortar type would be cool, because this would be a ranged enemy that's not like a crawler. It's not a menace or a acid spitter. It's on the ground and it's actually behind the enemies. and it's shooting over them to hit you. That's its function.
With that, and that's there's an enemy that kind of does that, but it fucking sucks. And so I hate it. But the Corona, when it's not charging, does that essentially. It spews straight up and on you, and its arc is fucking ridiculous. And he can be nowhere near you. You can't even see him, and yet he sees you apparently.
I suppose, yeah,
a slight issue with the Mortar type enemies.
I suppose I'm proposing something that might be a bit too complicated, where it would have very deliberate pathfinding, where it would genuinely just stay behind the other enemies, which it might be, that might not be too realistic. I guess the way to do that is that it just doesn't come towards you.
Yeah, it would basically.
Corona's trying to find you. The Mortar wouldn't come to you; it would just aim for you. It doesn't. It would actually stay away from you.
It'd be like as soon as it reaches its range would be, let's say, 100 meters. It's probably far too big, but this is just image. But it would get within 50 meters of you, and then it would stop and start shooting. So then you still got about 50 other meters on the other side. You're about 50 meters away from out of his range, but also him. That kind of thing. If you can picture that.
Yeah.
I think him setting up in that kind of thing where you were halfway between him and the edge of his range, so then you're often going to be in its target unless you run away from him or run to kill him. Yeah. And I think that kind of thing, and obviously there'll be other enemies involved. I do think there is merit, and I do think it's kind of quite likely to be. I think it's up there as far as enemy types that we haven't really seen of, especially for Cliffords, right? If they wanted to add some more Cliffords, I think this is up there.
Well, this is why I like the difference being an exploder, because he's sort of on his way toward becoming a bulk detonator. As in, this exploder has lived long enough to actually have survival instincts. That's what he's staying behind enemy lines, but it's still an exploder. So if you actually kill it, it will cause quite a big explosion.
I think maybe it would.
It's still an exploder at heart,
mini bulk.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
where,
definitely.
Some of the ammo, the mortars that he had out would just shoot randomly around him. Killing a bunch of enemies around him.
Well, I actually really like the idea. It's just quite specific, but I really like the idea that it has it charges its projectile in a way where you can see it, so you could actually shoot the projectile while it's readying it inside itself, and that would make it explode.
Could maybe, yeah. I think maybe you'd have to do that in a weird way. It would only expose it behind him or something. Because I feel like people would get too good at that.
But that gave me another idea, which is deflection of some kind, as in an enemy that deflects projectiles. Only because that's quite likely.
Back at you,
back at you, or just off of it. At least, maybe not necessarily back at you, but just they would bounce off it.
Shields from rivals, but obviously that's just
they don't actually do that though. Yeah. Which I guess is maybe that's actually an argument against it. Maybe they wanted to do that, but that's not inherently what those things were meant to be. But still, I think in an ideal world they probably do want to do something like this. So I'm gonna write. I don't know. I guess deflector, and that could be anything. That could be an ultra. That could just be a Clifford that has this weird ultra mutation where its front legs are even denser than a depressor's or something, but just the front legs, and it just bounces everything off of it.
I think an enemy, and I think arguably the oppressor could be considered this, but an enemy that is just kind of a wall, right? That and I think oppressor is this, but maybe to a lesser extent. This new enemy could be, but grunts, they kind of they're the tanky front line essentially, even though they're going to probably fall slightly behind when they go guard mode. But there's one that's just essentially just a wall. It's the front part is just and will allow all the enemies behind him to essentially just push forward uncontested. I think the reflector could be an example of that.
It would be quite fast. I like the idea of an enemy that actually is very quick and tries to come towards you, but doesn't actually attack you. He just gets right up in your face and then just sits down, waiting for you to shoot it. He just sits there. He just gets right up towards you and then he just stops for some reason. It's what are you doing? And he's just holding up his hands, just just putting up an invisible wall. Yeah, shoot me.
Shoot me in the face. Do it. Shoot me! The shoot me in the face guy.
Yeah. Shoot me in the face! Shoot me! In the face! Not around the face. In the face. His name was Face McShooty. Oh god. Okay. Tyler, we need more ideas.
Yeah. What are we at now?
Testicular torsion. Oh, in terms of numbers, 12.
Right.
Maybe you need some cheap shots, like Mactera.
Well, honestly, as far as current, I'm not sure about Mactera.
No.
I don't entirely know what
hold
Mactera
on.
really
I've
needs.
got to write down boss, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to do that.
Yeah.
Boss. What kind of boss though? Well, I mean a Mactera boss. Actually, I kind of want that.
I mean, you could
at this
combine
point.
any of the other ideas, but yeah, no, I think an aerial one would feel like an actual one where, and I said this before, but one where its aerial mobility is the point, right? Because technically the caretaker's flies, but that's not the point, right? It doesn't move around, is therefore why it's difficult.
I remember having this discussion, and then there's an Nemesis, which could have been a flying boss, but he's not a boss somehow.
Mini boss, which I think is it's an example of why there's something there, right?
People I think people do like the idea of like a giant, horrible mess of a Mactera. It's just way too big, and it flies, but it's struggling to fly as well. It's like really weighed down by its just
I would
unnecessary size.
It has 3 stages and it changes, right? You get through. It's like the first one is like a goo bomber, like it's huge, it's clunky, it's labored, it's like struggling to get around. It shoots like a goo bomber, like a big glob, and it's like a kind of like a real tough time for him. But then you break like a shell of its armor, and then it like it's like kind of shoot shit essentially, and it's like energized, and it's a bit more quick, it's a bit more agile, it's like a medium, right? It's like there, and then obviously you break that armor,
hold on,
and then it becomes agile.
If I want to put this down, we need I guess so. I think Berserker is the right way to put this. As in, a Berserker is just an enemy type in games where it's like once it's received enough damage or something, like a Goliath from Borderlands, it will become enraged, become much quicker and more aggressive. Just something like that. So a Berserker. That's what that means, by the way. If you're not thinking of anything else when I write Berserker, well, don't. Because
I wasn't inherently thinking he'd get stronger. It's more like he stays at the same level of strength, but like speed-wise and agility-wise, like it starts being slow and is a huge target. But he's got not like unbreakable armor, but just like strong armor all around him. And it goes to the end, and he's super quick, agile, but it's like weak point essentially. That's like all he is at that point.
Yeah, but this is just generalized. As in a Berserker type enemy is just one that becomes enraged in any way after doing something to it.
Yeah, like maybe just shoot him once and he'll fucking throw a hissy fit. But
right,
until then,
here's a cool one. Stationary.
Wow. Can you think of anything that would benefit from that?
What do you mean?
Like any enemy type where a new stationary thing would like help that, or just generally like a new plant type enemy, like a spitballer.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, a Mactera I guess a Mactera hive is the obvious one. It would spawn like little Mactera swarmers, basically. But it's quite. That's essentially just a station. That's more like I guess it's bees. Quite. I don't know if you want to put down bees. I mean, that's just bees. All put in stationary, isn't it?
These are the most random fuck off thing in the game, and you cannot convince me otherwise. Right? There was no reason for the bees to be there in the first place. It didn't make sense. What, bees don't live in the desert? There's no logic there. And then they brought it back for the giant tree. And I mean, in all fairness, there is more logic there. But like, I don't know why they brought back the bees. They're like, of all the enemies, they're like, we need more bees. This is it. This is it, guys. Fucking more bees. And now I want more bees because they've given me more bees.
All right, let's write down bees. Do you know why I'm going to write down bees? Because I want bigger bees, not just hives. But
yeah, I think a bee would suit our Brundle idea, right? It goes in to sting you, right? That kind of thing. It's a melee Mactera.
Bees. We had bees.
They could do something with like the because Macteras have they're red and not red. Fuck me, yellow and black. Which is I don't know if you've watched Bee Movie, but they're colors. And that's the only way you would know that. By the way.
Well, I wouldn't call Mactera. They're not. Most of them aren't really black. I mean, Mactera spawn are green and yellow. And then I guess the grabbers are grey.
Armors are black, right?
Brundles are like a dark blue. Everything looks blacker than it is in Deep Rock, Tyler. If you look at the bestiary, though, you'll see their true colours. Literally. About colour... No, not colour changing. Well, we've got to put stealth enemy, though. We have to put stealth... Sorry, I forgot about this. We have to.
Yeah, like a shrouded enemy.
And that can include invisibility. I personally really like the idea of something that hides in darkness, therefore light is a weapon against it. That's a brilliant idea.
No, it's not 2 in a row, but the last couple have been a bit Borderlandsy, right? Berserker, Shrouder. There's a shrouding enemy in Borderlands, right?
There's lots of stealth enemies in Borderlands.
Yeah.
Is there lots? I can't remember. I just remember the Hawks, the Hyperion Hawks. They're just snipers. That's all they are. I don't actually remember others, but yeah, obviously there are invisibility guys. As per usual.
I think it would have to do something to warrant being invisible, or like to balance being invisible, or either or, right? Like whenever it gets to you, which is slightly more likely, but also you got to be afraid if there's an invisible thing near you because it would do something. Got to do something like that. But explode could be a cool ass exploder.
That would be awful. An invisible exploder. Well, that's why I think. That's why I just wrote stealth. I didn't necessarily write invisible. I personally think something that hides in the darkness is better, because then you won't necessarily know. It can still be more of a generic attacking enemy. It could. I don't know exactly what it would do, but it's like you would know roughly where it is, or at least you'd know that it's in the darkness somewhere. You just know that it's not in the light, and that you should just stay up the dark. Which would also actually kind of suits a rework for the Haunted Caves mutator anyway. Where it's actually just something like if you just need to stay in the light, is actually a much better idea for that, I think. So you're safe from in the light, so just don't go into the shadows.
I think
you'll get snatched.
The thingies, right? The piranhas in the shadows from the Doctor Who episode.
Oh yeah,
something like that would be a pretty cool rework for Haunted Caves. Just if you are in complete darkness, ignoring flashlight, you will take damage, right? That is essentially like a low oxygen, but slightly less unreasonable.
Cooler.
That you would be sitting there waiting for your flares to recharge. Like fuck. Yeah.
I guess. Well, you sort of does Molly radiate light?
Yeah, she has a torch.
I guess you'd need to be in that, and also you could save your teammates by shining your flashlight by looking at them. Well, not yourself. Maybe if you look at the ground, I don't know, because the ground you're on lit up.
Maybe not like Haunted Caves, but like consuming darkness as like a warning. That would be. I
mean, I just like one where if the darkness is much more dark, like way darker for no good reason, just pitch black.
Well, if you turn off your light,
it kind of is. Yeah, there's usually light sources around. Like there's usually things that at least not necessarily produce light, but there's usually things that you can see still.
Like enemies or some things, but if there's none of that, then it's pitch black. It really is.
It can be. Yeah, it actually can be pitch black. Yeah. I'm
glad they weren't afraid of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to write light stealer. Actually, that might be a bit too far. Although it's not insane, but that probably suits the mutator more. So, I don't know. Do we want to like say something like a new shell pack?
Well, new shell back. That's the light stealer, the Coronator.
Oh shit! This is gonna sound a bit weird, but I think Tyler will know what I'm talking about. Small digger.
Yeah, we might as well throw in all of the ones we came up with like on video.
Well, duo and small digger, Tyler.
I think maybe throw in the word rock box in there. might also work. Not obviously with small digger, but just generally like a new rockpox enemy.
Fine. Small digger would just be something small that actually digs physical tunnels. Could be really small, could be dwarf sized. Just something that isn't the big guys that digs. That's all I want, and I think that's quite reasonable. Not to expect. I don't inherently expect any of these. I still think some of them are more likely than others. Scorpion.
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 That's just the type of insect here.
A scorpion.
Moth.
What?
Moth.
Moth. Moth. Moth.
Moth Gideon.
Moth Gideon. Muff.
One episode of that aired yesterday, by the way.
Muff Gideon.
You can watch it now.
Muffled Gideon. He's got a gag on. He's got a gag. Well, no, that's something else. About to do something that, like, actually, no. Something that, like, produces, like, sonic waves that, like, deafen you.
What?
Something that takes away sound. Yeah, like a Banshee. And it would screech so loud that it would actually drown out all other sounds. Not necessarily that you would, like, it wouldn't be so loud, like, for you, right? As it would basically just go, like, it would be like a high pitched, like, yeah, and then it would go, and then it would be muted. Yeah, then it'd be muted. Yeah. I guess the best. I guess I'll write Banshee. I'll write Banshee because that could be. It could do that, but just something that screeches at you. Either way, it's something.
The warden, it has an effect. You know, like when you approach a warden or aggravate a warden, it will summon enemies, right? To like help it. I think maybe an enemy that quadruple downs on that. You know, like if you aggravate it, it basically just screams giga loud and essentially spawns an ambush. Like not a swarm, but like or a wave, but just like a solidly sized ambush. Just for pissing it off, and it'll be a very rare thing. Maybe like a Crassus type enemy. Like a rare thing in the caves that will just fuck you up for no real reason. Like fuck you, experience another shit ton of enemies. Just to like mix things up a little bit. I'm thinking Witch from Left 4 Dead, but I don't think she does that. But I know that you're not supposed to startle her, and that's a thing. I think she could be an enemy like that.
Now I'm gonna write something weird.
That's a bit weird.
Okay, my text isn't showing up for some reason. What the fuck?
You writing in white?
No.
All right.
Oh, I'm gonna write Corruptor. Oh, the text still isn't showing up. What the hell? I can't, apparently. I just can't.
What does Corruptor mean?
I would like to be able to type things. Basically, and it's something that corrupts the terrain. Could even just be leaving a temporary trail. The
Rock's Pest.
No, it was actually the shellback, the rockpox shellback. But anything, something that actually, just something that just changes the terrain basically into like, or leave the trail as it moves as well, which we don't really have. It'd be nice if I could type it down though. Actually, what I'll do, hold on, I'll just use the notepad quickly. I'll just type these things. Corruptor. Also, it was mentioned, obviously, but we didn't actually spin off from it. Wardens, as in a new type of warden of some kind. And once again, not species specific either. I like the idea of the Macteras getting their own warden, but it would be a different type of warden. It's like attacker speed.
Like, they are so fucking strong. So, Macteras are just stronger than Cliffords, right? Like, they do more damage, they're quicker, they just don't have as much health most of the time, that's about it. I feel like if you buff them in any real way often, they'll just be too much, right?
Yeah,
Like,
that wasn't the suggestion though. That's just an
I know.
example. I just want
I'm
support
countering
enemies that have sort of that branching out effect. They're just pure support enemies, but doesn't have to be
but I think
Clifford, doesn't have to be defense.
Yeah, but I think that's the interesting about the Warden is that as much as you can tell when a Warden's there, you know, enemies aren't dying when they're supposed to. It doesn't feel all hope is lost, right? They've got a Warden. Fuck, like it's a very balanced buffing type enemy, and I'm not sure how many other enemies would benefit or like how like could be fucked around in that way. Like Glyphids are so default that they can be fucked around with buffs and debuffs and shit like that, and it still kind of be all right. But I feel like Mactera, if they get buffed, they'd be too strong, and basically everything other than rivals, there's not enough of them. But maybe a universal one could be an idea. Look, does Wardens they do like what do they buff the defense of a Mactera if it's
No,
nearby?
it's Clifford Warden.
Right, so it only buffs Glyphids.
Yeah.
Glyphid exploders?
I don't actually think so.
Right.
Every other Clifford though, yeah. Even the pressers.
Glyphid bolt detonator?
Yep. Actually,
Right.
I can't. Citation needed.
Weird if exploders weren't, but bolts were. But yeah, but the Wardens are pretty interesting. But maybe maybe a universal one, but its effects not that bad, maybe. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I posited the dasher that would speed up all enemies around it.
Oh, is that what it
at
did?
the cost of its own speed.
Yeah, that's something that's in that category basically, which is that's a nice one for us. Get some points maybe because it covers a lot of different types of enemies. We've got 3 more slots to fill.
Right.
As in only 3 as well, I guess is a good way of putting it. Maybe we should let's have a look at the let's see what they're up to right now.
I'm seeing them.
Yeah.
They might. I mean, they're finishing a mission now. There's a percentage chance they'll do a teaser now. Unlikely though, but they might. Definitely been around long enough.
A biggie bugger bongo.
It will be probably the next mission.
Yeah.
I think
a judo master.
We intend to do a little live review at the end of this. Just kind of throw it in.
I'm trying to think through like certain games though and the types of enemies that they have, like Halo or something. Think about the different types. Although this is actually somewhat more difficult than I expected. Obviously, it's not difficult if you were to list everything, because you could have like, you could take like, for example, you could take the vampire. You could be like, okay, that's right, Clifford vampire, Mactera vampire, just all that shit. You could be, but obviously we want 25 distinct things. I mean, you've got Clifford in there, which is pretty, and Rockpox and Boss, but you know, come on, guys.
Freer than others.
Yeah, it's bingo. Fucking hell. Good if this was live.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some of the ones, because like some games they don't really bother to play along those tropes, right? But other games really do. Like Dying Light 1 and 2, they have pretty clear enemy types. Like everything we just labeled and what the game already has, they have a pretty.
You know what? Hold on, sorry, I'm going to be a bit silly. I'm going to write flamethrower because there isn't a smaller enemy that uses fire. Just the lacerator, actually.
Yeah, but there's also not a smaller enemy that uses, I don't know, fucking pheromones.
Who does?
Other stuff.
No, okay, maybe not. Okay, but what I do want to bring up though is just biome specific enemies.
Do that.
As in possibly that as
enemies.
No, I kind of want to put biome specific as an entry, because it's like it's not even like in not even chasing the idea of a new biome, because that doesn't seem that likely now. But just more biome specific enemies in general. Like, I think there's a chance, but a small chance of, for example, a biome getting their own set of like the Glyphids, their own version of it. Obvious I don't know what the most obvious one is. Probably magma core or crystalline caverns.
It's not. It doesn't seem to be that obvious because they've already cancelled some, right? There was going to be a firebomber, but they were like, nah. And plus, they talk about the radioactive bulk detonator. They say there's no actual real value in adding it, and I feel like their ideology of biome variants have kind of changed. At least that's what I feel. Like they don't really see the value in having biome specific enemies anymore. I don't think. Well, obviously, variants, biome specific variants. They obviously understand, like stabber lines and shit. But I don't know. It doesn't seem like they particularly are interested in making the enemies feel unique to the biome or the biome to stand out more because of the enemies you're fighting. Like, oh, I'm in the radioactive exclusion zone, so the Praetorians are different here, and that so you actually the gameplay changes even more with that.
Well, I'm not. The reason I'm not 100% sure about that is because is that all just extrapolated from the radioactive detonator thing?
Pretty much, yeah.
So then it's like, are we sure it's not just that specifically? And there's like, I don't think that removes the chance of like a just a haul of like
also,
changing making a Praetorian for every biome just
firebomber
out of nowhere. Yeah,
like, there was no reason to cut that because there's no reason. There was like the only reason they would cut that is if they felt like the game didn't need a firebomber, right?
Actually, do you know what? Do you know what? I do want to write Worm. Actually, I want to write Worm because I want a worm, and like a game like this deserves a worm or like a snake centipede thing. It just does. It does. I don't even know what if a new species probably, and that's fine. But I still want to see it. I want a worm. I want a worm. And I'm going to write one because I want a worm, and we need 2 more ideas because I didn't write the biome specific enemies. You said something about status effects.
Yeah, just a status effect enemy. Like there's a mixture of your flamethrower and biome specific ones. Just cash in both of those with one thing. This enemy is just a status effect, and that's kind of what it's for. Arguably, Rockpox would also fall under that, but we'll ignore that.
Okay. Okay. What about? Oh, right. Mimic. Like this, right. And that's the last one somehow. How did we get this far? How did we get without bringing up mimics? Like, maybe it's too obvious. Because that's obviously just a tropey enemy, so the chance of it happening is very likely. And I don't know, people said things based on the only season 40s we've gotten so far have actually led people towards this idea, which I think is kind of weird, but still, it's sort of on some people's minds. And a mimic can take literally any form. It could, obviously, we do have the nemesis, but that's not what we mean. A mimic, obviously, traditionally is a chest that is actually a monster. It's just a fantasy version.
That's
I think we might want to write shapeshifter maybe instead.
Maybe, but I think it's worth noting that a mimic could be a very good way of adding another loot type enemy, right? Like a loot bug or a hootie hoarder. But this one is a more aggressive form that mimics other things. But when you kill them, bunch of loot all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, I guess you could have that, but you could. I personally would rather something that disguises itself as one of those enemies, but just is a lethal, dangerous enemy. It's just trying to lure you in because it's a loot bug, but it's not a loot bug. It's just something horrible.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the idea that this creature would essentially mimic whatever the strongest creature within like a radius of it is, right? So you're fighting this like grunt, and then a grunt guard appears. Suddenly it turns into a grunt guard, and you still have done the same amount of damage, but you're going to struggle to do more damage to it, right? Essentially, and it would just keep scaling up. And I hope that, and because I think they're slightly cool, that does mean if this enemy spawns at a dreadnought mission, it will copy the dreadnought.
It would actually clone it, and it would be as strong as a dreadnought.
Yeah.
But how would you deal with it though?
The damage you did it, you would just kill it like a dreadnought.
God damn, that's ridiculous. But I love it though. That is ridiculous
I think that kind of enemy, and that would reward you with loot because mimic. It would like as it dies, it then like transforms into a chest of whatever form they would want to make it as. I would be down for a classic fantasy style chest that stands out really weirdly, but they could do a sci-fi boring ass one if they wanted to. And then it spews out a bunch of minerals. It'd be like essentially it just turns into a cargo crate or some shit, right? And it's just a cargo crate gains sentience or some shit.
You what? Sounds terrifying, Tyler. So I want to actually try and I should be able to add a row to the table. Insert below. Oh, why is it grey? Now I can actually add these in. So that's our boy, the corruptor. No, corruptor. Other wardens. A worm. A worm. An elemental of some kind. And a shapeshifter. So I suppose I should at least show you this card of ours. This house of cards.
When you showed me, it would appear on the thing, right?
That's true. That's true. It won't. Yeah, it's going to be a bit weird, guys.
Race.
It doesn't really work. But still, I don't know what you're seeing right now, everyone watching this, but I know what you're seeing. Shouldn't be seeing my face.
Because earlier you put the stream on it, does it?
Anyway.
Right.
Here are the guys. So we need to sort of, I guess, pick out the most likely ones. Or you can even just go through them.
Is how many have we got here? Is this a 5x6?
No, it's 5x5.
Oh. What's the thing at the top? Oh, I guess it's a weird thing.
Don't ignore that, please.
Okay. Right, so we want Clifford in the middle, first of all.
Yeah, that got a bit. What? It should be in the middle.
Clifford is the free one, so we want it in the middle because then we only need like we have so many more free accessible connections.
Yeah, it is. I guess it's a free one, but honestly, I would say the chances are actually 50-50.
Yeah, it's the freest we're probably gonna get. Yeah. It's just because either we write Clifford or we write like free. But I think Clifford's a bit better. But so I guess we'd want to set it up in ways that we think we would actually get points. So this is where we would decide what's most likely. I think that I have no idea. First of all, let me get that out of the way. I do not know what enemies they could possibly have installed.
No, well, personally, I think it would have been somewhat helpful if these two were possibly in one, because I think something that takes either shield or health is actually very likely, or high chance. As in, honestly, I think I almost
take them when they hit you.
Still, then,
yeah.
I guess. Really, the highest we can get is like 50%. That's like the high, because we just don't know. It's weird. Like feels like we covered like really like basic tropes and stuff, but yet at the same time, I'm just struggling to imagine exactly what they're gonna do, which is just so weird. Maybe, yeah. I fucking hell. I mean, stealth is up there though, because. I explained, I include something that hides in the darkness as a stealth type enemy, and both invisibility and that have been very, very long running suggestions. So I think stealth is actually as up there as it can be. Basically, it's one of the more likely ones in my opinion. Do we need to signify that in any way?
Well, we put it in a row with each other, right?
I don't know how bingo works.
Well, right, currently, if you think stealth's likely and Clifford's basically free, you need to then hope for a web guy, a rammer, and a corruptor, which, in all fairness, considering that occurred accidentally, is not a bad set.
Okay. I mean, I don't know how much...
Might be the teaser.
Oh.
He's jumping around the place where he normally jumps.
I wonder if I can show this. Well, no, I definitely can.
sit there and be like, yeah.
Then I have to. Not.
I'm gonna react with a delay.
It'd be pretty wild if it's shows one of the new enemies and we get to immediately take something off. Yeah.
That would be lovely, wouldn't it? That'd be lovely. I just hold on, I'm actually gonna pause. Alright, so it's a bit weird to be in the podcast, but it will be. You're watching the podcast, you'll see this as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can slap in like the thingy or something live piece of reaction. Yeah. But yeah, it's just timing.
Go. At least we can talk about it.
Yeah.
What's he doing?
What is he? He's inside
the box.
All right, no.
Wow.
What's that? Isn't that the omen?
What part of it is the omen? Talking about.
That is it.
Right.
That's so weird.
I think so far we've definitely got to kind of look at what it is. It's DRG, man.
If DRG tech, it looks like, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is not random new shit. This is DRG is up to something, and that is this season. And thank fucking God.
Yes, I definitely agree. Also, it kind of looks a bit like a black box, and I wouldn't mind if they ended black boxes into normal missions if they're doing something like that. Or
open it, though. I think it's
opening. Yeah, exactly. It struck me as something like a cargo crate as well, possibly. That's another avenue. Which, if it was something like that, I would immediately jump to like, oh, possibly it's actually not. It might not be actually that important. It might be like a previous like seasons stuff box. You know, it could even be something like that. But I'd like to imagine it as something else. Most likely tied to new season event. I guess because it looks like it's just something that you found in the caves. Don't know what it would do. I guess it would summon something, possibly like some kind of box that sends out like a frequency that attracts a giant worm. So, there you go. That's a wild take.
Okay, so I'm like frozen it. I'm obviously we'll probably get into more detail on the actual news video. Like eventually we'll be filming this, and like once we finish this podcast, which won't be long. But there is a thing like it shows him opening it, black screen, cuts to it, scan, and basically whatever was in this box is like protruded out. It looks a bit like explosives, like the explosive canisters, but it probably isn't that, but it just looks slightly like it. And it threw the lid, like the open thing, to like the other side of the cave.
Yeah.
So it like launches itself open, like as soon as you like unhinge it. Thing is, I think we've also got to acknowledge this kind of looks like a weapons case, right?
I fucking hope so.
Like it kind of looks like
or a jetpack.
Or yeah,
in the box.
Sort of equipment.
It also it might not have just been found. It could have been something that you call down. Yeah.
It's an odd shape for things you call down. Often, everything you call down is a cylindrical shape. I think that's, and I think
yes, that's possible, but it could still have a drill on the bottom of it. You never know.
I think it's more that it flies through space and it drills down. It's essentially got to be like a rocket, like it's
and if it was, it could have been like in a capsule, but like we don't see something that was. It could have been like inside of. It's just on its own. There's nothing like around it. It looks like.
I don't know. I think this was in the cave because it was beeping as well, right? It had that beeping to it. It had like the helmet beep or the crate beep or Betsy beep, like things left in the cave here, come find me beep. And I think this might be something. Either way, it looks like. It looks more of an event than an event, right? It doesn't look like a seasonal event. It just looks like a cargo crate or.
I agree. I agree on face value, but I think I don't disagree. But I would counter with I just really like the idea of it not being a big thing straight away, which is why I like the idea of it being some kind of something that just emits like a lure of some kind for like a larger enemy. and it will become a bigger event. But it's like, it starts off as just a small box. I like that inconspicuousness, so I'm gonna in my head entertain that possibility. But it is small, which means like based on precedent means it's probably not like a big event. That thing itself. Either way, back to our little game of bingo, or not really. We'll just maybe just sort of close this off. Some final thoughts.
In that teaser was a maggot. So
if that was an enemy, then stationary is crossed off the list.
And maybe mimic. I would think this would be how they would do that chest that a mimic would turn into.
Yeah. I guess actually, probably the best thing to do would be like what we want the most out from the bingo card, though. And at the same time, I want people to really say like what they want to see as well. I'm going to show it. Here's our bingo card. Personally, I would say worm. I want a worm. I like worms, and I want the mortar guy as well. I like the mortar guy, like a veteran mid-ground exploder. Sort of where my head's at. But worms. I want long segmented enemies. That's what I want.
Like a Eater of Worlds kind of thing.
Or a not destroyer, because that's a robot.
Rival tech.
Which would honestly that's if the rivals come back and they have a giant robot worm, it's fine by me. If they just copy Terraria, take those guys, a giant fucking robot skeleton, that'd be horrible. But for you, I guess, would it be something like the Berserker, and therefore like the dash
Rammer Berserker kind of thing? Once you've done enough damage to them, they're like, that's it, I've had enough. That kind of enemy I would like. I think that would be interesting, because then it's like, should you kill him? Should you not kill him? Or like first, obviously, eventually you've got to kill him. But like, if you don't really want to be dealing with a guy that's like giga strong, giga aggressive at the beginning of the fight, you want to clear everything out and deal with him last, essentially, or get him out of the way first, then deal with everything else. And I think that, mixture of opinions and just ideas and just thoughts is interesting.
And I think this is interesting because there's some very basic stuff here, but in general, what we sort of try to do is think of things that haven't really been done before in DRG, sort of drawing in tropes from other games or just games in general, and even some just other completely random stuff. But the reason why that's interesting, because I think this sort of these kinds of enemies, I hope, are what we're more likely to be getting. Because if you look at, say, and I think the Rivals are actually the best example. You take the Rivals as basically Ghost Ship trying their hand at just creating a brand new faction, but it just sort of slots into the pre-existing roles that DRG already has for enemies. It's just translated onto a different like aesthetic, basically. That's all it is. And that's what we're sort of hoping for, and I guess reasonably somewhat expecting, based on what we know from this season, is that it's going to be adding enemies that are new in terms of their like role specifically, because that's what you would expect when you get enemies in the normal pool. So we hope it's sort of more like filling in holes or introducing actually new enemy roles, basically, which is what all of these are, rather than like a new faction that just plays into all the pre-existing roles. Which is why I'm not necessarily hoping for a new species. You can still get new miscellaneous species, right? Because you get like the Nyaka, which is on its own, and it just so happens to just do what it does, and it's still a unique role. The worm would be that as well. It might need to be. You might need a new species for the worm, but I don't necessarily want a new faction. I just want new enemies.
Yeah, not a new faction that you only meet some of the time and that feels essentially the same niche as other stuff, right? Like, we don't want to be like, oh, there's this new enemy. This is the swarmer.
In this case, the faction is Hoxies, basically, but that can include new species still, if need be.
I think the more we can't place where in the categories they fall in, the better of a job they've done, right? Like, if we cannot tell if they're a high value target or anything, at least in the videos watching them, or like where they fall into the categories we have made, the better, because that means that these things are new. Like, like fucking up our systems. Like they're a different type of thing. But yeah, that is us.
I think that
we
will be
did a
us. Yep.
pretty good job here. I was a bit hesitant, thinking, well, I'm not sure if we're going to fill a thing that big, but we did. With probably a couple spare that I mentioned we'd forgotten about.
Yeah. Animal. Because what I was going to suggest, possibly, was to literally just like something that we really don't have is like mammals, like animals, like things with like bipedal or quadrupedal with like hair and eyes and very distinct mouths and noses. You know, like an actual beast, not insects. Not giant insects, but that's more broad. Like that's more of a broad, like thematic, like idea, rather than like a new like enemy from a gameplay perspective. Those guys could be anything. I want mammoths though, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Big hairy fuckers. Hair would be annoying though. Hairy enemies would probably be quite annoying to do. So don't bother.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have put that Clifford with luscious locks.
Yeah, a great mane Clifford, grey mane Clifford.
Grey mane. What are you?
Grey mane.
What did you say first time?
What?
Man.
A great mane, and then I said grey mane.
What did you say to him?
Oh, I saw his name, so I said his name. Which one is it?
Yeah, Battleborn.
Yeah, I'm not a fucking dumbass.
I can't remember what he says. It's like I know, but I can't remember. I remember part of what he says. I could tell you're a smart one the moment I laid eyes on you. But then he'll insult you if you say the other one. So what did you actually think?
Yeah,
bitch?
I mean, it's fickle either way, really, isn't it?
Like, fickle.
I don't know. It might be better if he said, "Oh, I thought you were a smart one," but here you are. Some shit like that, right? Yeah, I don't know.
Look,
It's a good
SpongeBob.
introduction to the place. All right, let's go. Rock and Stone.
All right. Hold on. Actually, I should probably hide this switch. It's us. It's us. We're back. Hello, everyone. If you enjoyed this, well, actually, that was the Barrel Vision podcast, episode 48. If you enjoyed this, please make sure to like, subscribe, and go to the chip shop. The chip shop shut today.
On fire again.
It's not on fire. It might be on fire. I don't actually know. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. We're about to record another video, but so you'll probably see that first. Although my laptop's pretty quick, so maybe not. Eat my shorts.